There you go.
Hello and welcome inside an NFL wildcard prediction segment of the Deech Sports Talk. I am wildly intruding Robert Dieter's typical show here. We're welcome into a brand new year. Want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. The first official broadcast of the 2014 Spreaker National Sports season kicks off with a little wild card prediction segment. But first and foremost, I want to welcome in Robert Dieters, the longtime expert of everything to do with national sports, the commissioner of this radio station. And the first question for you, Robert, after I let the whole audience know that, yes, my voice is about ready to get out, but first I got to get this really, really important show on tap. And we start off with a huge storyline from Chicago. Jay Cutler, a 7-year contract, guaranteed over $50 million for a 30-year gunslinger for Chicago directly after the Bears missed the playoffs.
This decision really just questions where the direction the Bears are going at this point. Do they want to be a playoff team? I don't know yet, because now they have Jay Cutler for another 7 years. Are you kidding me? This is not a great deal. This is not even a good deal at all. I disagree, and I don't like that Jay Cutler is under center right now for their future QB.
I understand the fact that the Bears want to solidify a franchise quarterback. I understand the decision. There are 32 teams in this league, and Jay Cutler, if you were to put him in a NFL starting lineup, he would beat probably half of the teams or half of the quarterbacks in this league hands down. But he's 30 years old, and he's not deserving of that big of a contract. And nevertheless, Jay Cutler may be a man that can hold you back as a franchise and a front office because you're giving him so much money that it takes away from the salary from other players. And let's add to this, Robert. Josh McCown, your backup quarterback, came in this season and played even better than Cutler did when he was healthy. He's 30 years old, and he may not even be the best quarterback on the team. I think this is a bad move. And now moving forward for the Bears, what do you do as an organization? I have no idea.
And Josh McCown, yeah, you go to that point, and he was one of the best QBs for the longest stretch when Jay Cutler was hurt. I really liked McCown. I liked how he played, and I thought that he was going to do really well. I thought that, maybe the Bears think of him as a starting QB. Well, maybe not this time around. Jay Cutler does get the 7-year deal, and expected to average more than $17.6 million per year, include at least a $50 million in guaranteed money. Wow, I'm questionable about $50 million already guaranteed in that contract for 7 years. But Jay Cutler, he could be hot and cold, but the only thing is, he doesn't have any more excuses anymore. This is where it comes down to the fact that he has to win a Super Bowl within those 7 years. If he can win a Super Bowl within those 7 years and at least make 4 playoff appearances, the contract's well worth it.
This quarterback and this team is very reminiscent to Tony Romo, same age as well, 30 years old, given a mega deal, expected to revitalize the franchise. But I think this just cripples a team like Chicago that defensively was so anemic, especially against the pass. We saw that against the Packers where they let a wide-open Randall Cobb go, and that was part of a 33-point game for the Packers. I think that Jay Cutler just hinders this team's ability to bring in talent, as now Jay Cutler is sucking up so much of that cap space. And best case scenario for Cutler, let's just imagine that Cutler in the best situation, right? I mean, when he was at his prime a couple years ago with the Broncos, and let's just even say the Bears and Mark Trestman, they create a top 10 quarterback out of Cutler. For 7 years, they create a top 10 quarterback. He's paid top 3 money. So that means, I actually believe that with all the guaranteed, he may be the highest paid quarterback in the league. So even at the best case scenario, he's overpaid. Now you have the fact that he's become injury prone, he's turned the ball over, and this man has had very, very minimal playoff experience. And the Bears defensively are a mess. So in my mind, Best case scenario, he's overpaid. Worst case, he may be out of the league, or at least out of the Bears organization in the next couple of years. Robert, final thoughts on this? And if you see any sort of, is there any way that this is a good move?
Well, as I said before, I think the only good move, if you think about it, is that Jay Cutler can win a Super Bowl within those 7 years and at least makes the playoffs. I say at the least 4 and make it at 5 the highest. I think that's how you're going to get your contract worth. But you really can't blame the offense this season. I still think that you have the defense to blame because, I mean, Jay Cutler didn't complain at all. He had weapons. And I look at it as a season as, you didn't have Jay Cutler for some of this season, but Josh McCown still did great. I'm not going to say well, but great because he did so well for this Bears offense. But the Bears offense is not to blame this season. I say the defense because they had the shot, and I think the defense really blew it.
Yeah, Chicago defensively ranked dead last against the pass, but Jay Cutler is a man who hasn't won a playoff game in, I believe, 4 to 5 years. I mean, Jay Cutler has had a long stretch where he hasn't even been the best quarterback in his division, and right now, with Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, with even what the Vikings perhaps could take in the top 5, Johnny Manziel, they have a draft pick to do it. This could be the worst quarterback in the division, or at least arguably the worst, paid some of the highest millions per year. I mean, the most guaranteed money in that division. I mean, to me, it's just a bad move and just a questionable call. Not nearly as questionable, though, as I would put on the Buccaneers after 2 years letting go of Greg Schiano, who provided a toughness, provided an attitude for this football team. Many people remember when they played the Giants, it was the quarterback kneel by Eli Manning where he almost got pile drafted to the turf during that knee. Many people regarded it as a disrespectful move. Tampa Bay, though, profoundly stubborn on creating a new attitude in this locker room. A team that I believe went 4-12 this season. The Buccaneers, they look god awful the first half of the season. They picked it up as of late. I think Greg Schiano should have stayed. But Robert, news out of Tampa Bay, Florida. They pick up a new head coach, and now this team seems to be relevant one more time.
And Lovie Smith is going to bring a lot more momentum into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lovie Smith, he got fired for 10-6 record with the Bears, a team that should have done a lot better. But I think Greg Schiano, I think it was a smart move, and he knew that it was going to be his last game because I remember the last game watching, and he was shaking hands and making sure that players know, and he's a good coach. I just don't think it was the right fit for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for Tampa Bay, I mean, we're talking a team filled with flux at the most crucial positions. Wide receiver was supposed to be set in stone with Vincent Jackson coming to town, but they don't really have any other threats in the receiving position. Tight end has been a mess, and obviously they began the year with the Josh Freeman experience. It turned into Mike Lennon, and that undrafted free agent's not really going to pan out for you. He's a solid backup quarterback, a guy that can eventually come in the league and mature as a starter, but currently Mike Lennon is nothing more than just a reliever. He played admirably with the loss of Josh Freeman, but that quarterback dilemma has been nothing short of dramatic and unnecessary there for Tampa Bay, a team that is still, to this very day, still trying to find a quarterback. They couldn't even find one during the Super Bowl run in 2002, and this has just been an interesting offseason for Tampa Bay. Similar story with Houston. They bring a guy with the likes of Bill O'Brien, former Penn State coach. Robert, I don't know if you know a whole lot about this head man, but they get rid of Gary Kubiak after the worst season in the NFL this year, 2-14 record. They hold the first overall pick. If you're buying stock for Houston, is this a team that you see being on the rise, or would you sell this team now after a 2-14 season and a year in flux there for Houston.
I say I sell this team because still a 2-14 record. I don't think you're going to even get. I think this team, if I had to say, would probably get 6 wins next season, but it depends what they get in the draft. Because I mean, I know the QB situation was tough for them as well, Nick. And Matt Schaub has, he was in his prime. Last year he was great, and now this year he just came out and was awful. So we have to see what happens with the QB situation. And also looking at it, I think Bill O'Brien will be a good fit for this team. I mean, you saw Chip Kelly already for the Eagles, a man that came from college to the NFL, and he already made the playoffs. But we'll have to see what happens. I mean, it just all depends on how the Texans do run this year. I think they're going to make some big moves this year.
Yeah, well, Bill O'Brien definitely did an admirable job. Excuse me, sorry, I'm losing my voice here, but Bill O'Brien did a very admirable job taking over Joe Paterno, all the drama there for Penn State, and did a very good job. Now he goes into an even more dramatic situation. Andre Johnson wants to leave the team. Matt Schaub, you would believe, is not really the franchise guy. Many mock drafts considered Teddy Bridgewater to be the first overall pick there for the Houston Texans. And it just seems to me like this team with Bill O'Brien could be on the rise, but then again, there have been, just last year, there were 8 new head coaches and only 2 have made the playoffs. Several coaches from college couldn't quite get it done. Mark Trestman came from the Canadian League, and it just seems to me like it's not quite as easy to make that transition, especially in a league where you got to win now or you're out. Just ask Mr. Chudzinski there for the Cleveland Browns. 1 year and he's done. Are you kidding me? This was a team that in Cleveland has lost for a number of years. 1 year and you're already on to a new coach. Before we move on to the wild card predictions, that's the title for today's show. We promise you we're getting to that. Just one final thought. What is your idea on how the Cleveland Brass is going to revamp another failed season for the Browns and such a flux at the quarterback position? How do you fix that all? And do you think Chudzinski, his firing, is the answer?
I think that was the answer in a way, because I know head coaches really have to handle the QB situation. And there's a lot of different QB situations, like let's go with Mike Shanahan, for example, the RG3 Kirk Cousins situation. You bring Kirk Cousins in at the end of the season and shut down RG3. I don't think that was the smartest idea. But when you take Brandon Weeden and Jason Campbell, I mean, Brandon Weeden made one of the worst plays in the season, like doing a flip pass and becoming an interception. You could have at least thrown it away. Is not very smart. I like Jason Campbell. I think Jason Campbell, I remember his days back in Oakland when he actually started. He was a decent quarterback, and I liked him back then. But you look at the Browns situation, I think they have to fix the QB situation. Getting rid of Trent Richardson wasn't the smartest idea right in the beginning as well, and going to the Colts. So I question some of their decisions this year, and I think that's why they're making a transition into a new head coach. I think it was smart.
Yeah, the other thing is with Chudzinski, didn't do a very good job handling the quarterback. And that, to me, is the most vital attribute for an NFL head coach. Outside of Bill Belichick, and you can argue Tom Coughlin, all the other coaches in the NFL that have won consistently in this league does a very good job at nurturing the quarterback and helping him become a not only be a student of the game, become a student of the league, but also day in and day out, the coach has to be on the quarterback's hip to help him grow and mature as a QB. And for Bill O'Brien, he's more of a defensive coach. For whoever the Cleveland Browns bring in, if they bring in a defensive guy, it seems to me that outside of maybe even Rex Ryan, a coach that has been around for a while, coaches do not last long if they don't know how to nurture a quarterback. That's why Gary Kubiak is out. And you could argue one more head coaching stop here in this carousel. Leslie Frazier, do you know a whole lot about him, Robert? Do you feel that was a good move as well, getting him out of Minnesota?
Leslie Frazier, I say that it was, I think it's a good firing because, I know that there is injuries and You didn't have AP until